Well, welcome to this week's ATL Home and Market. Glad you're all back and glad to see you. We're getting close to the last days of summer. I think this weekend is actually the last official days of summer before autumn. So time really moves, and it's been in the 90s. So go figure what the weather is. But that's life living in Atlanta. Um, I'm Ira Miskin. I am a broker and team leader for your home sold guaranteed realty in the Miskin team. And with me, of course, is Stephanie Miskin, my co-team leader. And again, this week joining us is our senior team advisor and also associate broker, Josh Guallett. And we're going to have an interesting back and forth this week. We've been covering these topics in different ways for the last couple of weeks. But this one really focuses on something very specific for home sellers. See, when we first talk with home sellers and we begin to make a plan for how to get that home ready for sale, one of the things that we talk to them about are what are the things that they need to do to the home and the property and to spend money on versus what are the things that they really don't need to do and spend money on in order for the home to be as attractive and appealing to home buyers as possible, and also get the highest value price. And so we're going to spend some time digging into the nuts and bolts of what you should do and what it costs and how you should do it. And I think that'll give you some pretty good insights as you're thinking about preparing for either selling your home or looking around at houses that you go to visit if you're purchasing a home, to see what it is that the home sellers have done to make that house really as good a home, as welcoming a home for you as it could possibly be. But before we do that, I'm going to have Stephanie jump in again this week and make Metro Atlanta and the environments here in North Georgia as appealing as possible, with some really cool things going on in and around Atlanta and some other interesting places as well. Steph, what do you got this week?
Okay, well, you did say that summer, I think officially is over this weekend. I believe you were correct when you said that. And we've been talking about, the city and the suburbs and going north. But we forget that Atlanta is not that far away from the beach. Okay, you can get out to Savannah if you're in Atlanta within 4 hours. It's not a tough drive. And there you are at the beach. And the reason I'm bringing this up this week is that the Savannah Jazz Festival is going on this weekend. It is completely free. It is going to be taking place in Forsyth Park and the District Live area of Savannah. And I think if you've never been there, this is a great time to go. First of all, it's towards the end of summer, so it won't be quite as hot as it is in the middle of the summer, because Savannah tends to be pretty hot. And you'll get to see all of this beautiful historic architecture, which is phenomenal. And the beach is right there. You can go to Tybee Island and have a ball. And I want to bring Josh in here because I know, Josh, you spent a lot of years in Savannah going to school there. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that you can add a few things that you liked about living in Savannah.
Well, yeah. So a few things I loved about Savannah. Honestly, the weather wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. Sometimes you actually did get a breeze from the ocean, but first, it's a really easy commute. Really easy drive from Atlanta. On a weekend, there's Tybee Island. There's a lot of places to really kind of eat, to enjoy, to just really relax. It's a great walking city. So you get close to River Street.
Yeah, River Street is great, right?
It really is. It really is.
It's shop after shop and bar after bar.
It's a lot of It's a very international city. Yes. So at least when I was there was a really big German influence as well. So a lot of German restaurants, the candy store. There's a lot of historical buildings.
Yeah. When I was there, which was fun, we went on a ghost and a graveyards tour.
Yep.
And it was so much fun. And then there's a riverboat
Casino.
tour also that you can get on and go have a dinner. So you could make a whole, you could easily, now that the kids are getting out of school, if you wanted to go down there, check in the jazz festival this weekend and spend a couple of days in Savannah and go to the beach. Go to Tybee Island. Tybee is what? Half an hour from Savannah, I think.
Right. It's really close.
Yeah. So that was number one. I just, I felt we were always going up to the mountains. So I said, wait a minute, the beach is right here. And there's a jazz festival. So check that out. Now, for all you wusses that don't want to get in the car and go to the beach, opening up this weekend is Fright Fest at Six Flags over Georgia. It's been around forever. It's getting into Halloween time. So that's going to be going on. And if you like ghosts and goblins and scary things and rides, definitely go to Six Flags over Georgia. That's going to be going on all the way through the beginning of November. And, go at night if you're an adult and you really want to be scared, and go in the daytime for the kids because it's a little bit less scary in the daytime for the children. But it's lots of fun, and if you've never been, it's something that I think you and the family would enjoy, and that just opens this weekend. Also, this weekend, if you want to stay in town, is the North Georgia State Fair in Marietta. Huge fair, country kind of fair with rides and concerts, monster trucks. And that's going to be going on from September the 18th to the 28th. So that's the North Georgia State Fair in Marietta in Jim R. Miller Park. Check it out if you've not been. Definitely check it out. And they have a couple of specials like Teacher Tuesday, College Night, Food Drive Friday. So get online and check it out, because sometimes I remember when we went, it was like if you brought a couple of cans of food and donated them for Must, it was for Must Ministries at that time, you either gotten free or you got a discounted rate to get into the fair. So check that out. And we also have in Piedmont Park, there's going to be a major music festival. It's called Shaky Knees at Piedmont Park. It's going to be going on this weekend. So again, you can buy tickets for one day or tickets for the whole weekend. But if you want to stay in the city and listen to some good music, check that out. And as always, still going on. If you feel like the mountains, go to Helen, because we've got Oktoberfest going on in Helen up there. And one more thing, don't forget, if you stay in the city and if you have kids, take part of that free September deal that I've been talking about, so that you can get the kids into these major attractions in Atlanta, like the zoo, like the aquarium, the puppetry theater, for free if you buy a ticket. So fall break is coming up. All these things kind of fall into that category. But if you stay in the city and your kids are driving you nuts and you need something to do, take them to the aquarium and you won't have to pay to get them in. And that's what I have for today.
Yeah, I love it out there. It's a lot of really great. Well, it's a lot of really great places to go, especially when you have a free weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I reiterate it. I say it a lot because if you miss the other podcast, you don't know about this free September, and I think it's just such a phenomenal thing. And now that I know that a lot of the counties are off next week, take part in it. That's a lot of savings. That's probably, 2 kids' tickets to get into some of these things has got to be $75 or more.
And it seems to be that a lot of the counties have lined up this year that they're all getting off at the same week versus,
staggering it.
So going on vacation, having trips with multiple families, multiple friends, it's actually an option this year.
Yeah, I know. Cobb and Cherokee are off the same time, and they never used to be. So you're right. It's really cool. And the kids, kids have friends that are, some of these counties are so close. They have friends from church or sports that, or in other counties, it's nice for the kids to get together and do stuff.
Yep. So it's gonna be fun.
Yep.
And
So
then,
that's
while the kids are home and playing, the parents are watching HGTV, right, Josh?
Yeah.
that's
So
right.
so a lot of parents are a lot of people are looking at. It's surprising. I don't know if everyone else has noticed that every place you go is everyone's watching HGTV. So I don't know, it's every waiting room, every hospital, whatever it may be, it's HGTV. So everyone has that vision of reflipping, flipping their house or renovating their house or, making their house shine.
Absolutely. You go into the dentist's office and you sit there in this HGTV there, but the catch is, and so people get sucked into this. They get sucked into like, oh boy, I got to do that to my kitchen in order to sell the house, or I got to do that to my bathroom. But, what I want to say is, no, you don't have to do that. They're making a TV show. They have probably an unlimited budget and they're doing it for the media. You're doing it to sell your house. And that is a very, very different scenario than making a TV show. So yeah, maybe you'll get some good ideas, but you really have to analyze what are the best upgrades to do in order to get the most bang for your buck in the area that you live in.
And that's a really important point. It's not just the upgrades that you do, but what you do for the area and how the area for pricing will support them.
Right.
And as we jump into this, I want to tell you a story that really points up this whole need to be able to be really, regardless of when you're thinking about selling the house or what you do to it, keeping the house up, remodeling it, renovating it, getting it specifically prepared to sell, or knowing that you're going to sell the house in the future and the house has to pass muster with buyers and in price. If you're not really thinking about what the community and pricing will support, it can get away from you. And here's the story. Homeowner that bought a really nice house, 1980s house, contemporary style home. It's what we call a split. And so you walk up the stairs, and then you walk up a group of stairs inside, and all the bedrooms, bathrooms, living room, dining room, all of that is all on one level. Kind of feels like a ranch, but because it's a split and it's raised, it's called a raised ranch, it has this nice basement and usually a drive under garage that takes about half the basement, and then the other half you can finish off. And a lot of people do. You can finish it off and put a nice sitting room in there. You can put a bedroom in there, a bathroom. Some people even put, a little kitchen counter in there, and it becomes a great team suite or becomes an in-law suite. But you have to be careful how much you're putting in and how you're making the space work. Well, this particular couple decided that that's what they were going to do, but instead of doing it in a modest way and putting in the amount of money that they really could be able to recover when they sell the home, they took the garage space as well because they wanted the whole ground floor to be finished space. And they put in bedrooms, bathroom, sitting area, full kitchen. It's really nice. It's a really nice space. It's literally an entire secondary home. And like we talked about a few weeks ago, if you're in a situation where you're combining, you want a multi-generational buy, that would be a great house to purchase. Except the price of everything that it cost to do all that work far and away exceeded the amount of money that a house, even with the finished ground floor area, could get. The houses don't sell for as much money as they put into the home. They can't appraise for that much money. And in that type of community where, because the houses are in like the $300,000 to $350,000 range, these tend to be family communities, first-time homebuyer communities, younger families with kids. And one of the things that's important is to have a garage to be able to go in, to bring groceries in, to park that car, keep them safe at night, entry for kids. Well, now this house has only parking on the driveway. There's no garage. So on top of putting way too much money into doing the renovation, as nice as it is, they eliminated something that in these kinds of communities is important when somebody buys a home, which is having a garage to park your cars and put your storage in and so on. So the home buyer is in a situation where when you look at the total value of everything that they put in, when we did an appraisal value, it was about $420,000 worth of value. So if you picked the house up and you moved it to another community where house prices supported that, they could get $400,000 or $420,000. But in their community, the best that house, even with the finished space, will likely get is about $350,000. And it has the issue of not having a garage. So planning, spending, yes, you want the house to fit your lifestyle, your needs, and your use, but every house has a value. And at some point, that house is going to get resold. And if you put, the fixtures and kitchens and additional space into a house that way exceeds what the community will pay, well, you're going to live there a whole lot longer until the house price catches up with what you paid for it, or you simply have to brace to take the loss on that expense in order to be able to move. And that's, I think, a really big thing that you need very good sage advice, even if you're not selling the house. And we talk to people, we're not selling the house for 2, 3, 4 years, but we want to finish the basement, or we want to do this, or our parents are moving in with us. We do consulting all the time. That's exactly what we do. There's no cost, there's no obligation. And we bring to them exactly what we're going to talk about today, which is how to do the best upgrades to your home without it overspending and paying you back for the work that you've done. And Steph, I guess it all starts with.
Yeah, it all starts with curb appeal and first impressions. But I want to say one thing. I want to add one thing to what you were talking about, which is that also what these people did to their house also narrows down the pool of people that are going to be interested in that house. So that is a really big thing to think about when you're going to be redoing a space like that, because like you said, if you're going to live there till you die, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to live there and you think you're going to sell it in a couple of years, you better think about that before you put all that money in. So I just wanted to stick that in because that really resonated in my brain. Like, who's going to want a house like that? That's going to narrow it down so much. So many people are going to walk away. But yes, back to the first impression, curb appeal. I can't tell you how many times when I was out in the field showing property to buyers, I would drive up, you look at the house, that the interior of this house is perfect for that buyer. It's perfect. It's got everything that the buyer needs. And the outside needs some work. So you drive up there, and at the time that I was showing property, many of the buyers were in my car. So They weren't following me. They were in my car. And we drive up to a house, and maybe it needed some work on the outside, and they wouldn't even want to go in. So I had to fight right there to say, no, you've got to go in. You've got to go in because I know, it's a mess out here, but you could do this, you could do that. So I'm already trying to open their eyes before they even get in the house. So yes, curb appeal is so important.
And even
Absolutely.
with that, the conversation I have a lot of times with buyers is you can't change. There's certain things you can change about a house. There's certain
Right.
things you can change siding, you can pressure wash, you can change mailboxes, you can do these things. And we can talk about the things that are definitely worth doing. But you can't change the size of a lot. Your lot
Right.
is the lot. So if that's the perfect lot, that's the perfect size. It's flat enough for you, and the kids can play, and you can cut the grass. So don't let the weeds scare you away,
Right.
because there are some people the weeds will scare them away if you let them. So um, it kind of helps to have the
Absolutely.
vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and uh, it's cut the grass, put in the flowers, trim the bushes, make it look more delicate. But then, right, Josh, it's the physicality of the house. It's like, sometimes it's siding, right?
Right.
Right, right. So if it's so if you're working if for a buyer walking to the property, if it's siding, if it's something basic, it's worth doing. But a lot of times that curb appeal will scare people away where you cannot get them over that hump.
Yeah.
So
And
these
it's
basic things that they could do up front, that sellers could do up front early on. Um, and one thing I like to say is when there's an issue that you know about, like we have a certified pre-owned program where we actually inspect the home prior to the home being, actually set to be sold. But finding those issues, you can fix those issues for $50 a trip to Home Depot. Once the buyer finds those issues, they don't want you to solve it with $50 in Home Depot. They want the contractor, the licensed contractor that's going to charge $200 just to come out, just to have the conversation to get everything started. So it's worth the time for a lot of the things we're going to say. It's worth doing the work up front and not waiting for someone to show up and be possibly scared away.
absolutely sweat equity. It always pays off
If you know what you're doing, let me say, if you know what you're doing,
if you know what you're
you know what
doing.
you're doing. That's a difference.
That's true.
But
Anyway, once you get them over that hump and you finally get them in the door, they're not running away and say, "Let's go to the next house." What do most people want? What sells houses? Kitchens and baths, right?
Every time.
First thing that the wife wants to see is, let's go look at the kitchen.
Mhm.
And so, that really is an area, and the bathrooms, that people need to focus on when they're thinking about upgrading their home.
And it's not that costly. A lot of times, it's not very expensive to do it. You know, there's certain homes or certain areas, but if you just refinish the paint, redo the cabinets, sometimes replacing the doors, replacing the handles, and a lot of times having a third party there to really see it from an outside perspective,
Right.
you may be completely fine with that broken handle. You figured out how to open it perfect, and you think everyone else is going to not see it. It's an asset to you, but for other people, it's a liability. So having that third party come in, there's a lot of things you can do to really up the price and get the home sold for a much better price. That doesn't really cost much.
yeah, so granite countertops versus laminate countertops. And you can buy granite countertops that are 2 inches thick, and they cost a lot of money per square foot. And you can buy granite tops that look just as well, and they're just as serviceable, and they're only 1 inch and 5/8 thick at half the price. And when you don't have a huge amount of counter space, just doing something like granite countertops, or as you said, Josh, you don't have to replace the cabinets and doors, clean the cabinets and paint them.
Change the hardware.
Yeah, basic thing,
Right.
very
Basic
basic
things.
things.
Yeah. Right.
So
And I guess it's the same for appliances. That dishwasher still works. It's been there 15 years.
and the person who lives there is completely fine with that dishwasher. They trust it. They don't want to buy a new one because they've had this for 15 years and never had an issue. But a new buyer coming in who sees 15 years, they're going to have an issue. Just the idea that even if it was going to last another 5 or 10 years, it's implied that it will break, and it should have broke 10 years ago. You've just been you've just been lucky.
Right.
So
So replace it before they come into your house, and then it becomes an issue.
Right. Right. And take that 15-year-old dishwasher to your next house. Get rid of it. Just can't stay here.
And replacing them doesn't have to be enormously expensive. A lot of the fix and flip folks have figured out, and it's pretty easy to find. There are lots of places, and even the big companies that sell it, like Home Depot and so on, they get a certain amount of product that gets dented when it's shipped, or there's a scratch on it. We call them scratch and dent
Mhm.
appliances. And you can buy the same appliance that might be, perhaps, a 15 or an 1800 or a $2,000 refrigerator for half the price.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. And once you slide that refrigerator into the slot, the fact that it has a little dent on the side, that somebody buying a brand new refrigerator is not going to want in their home, and nobody will, for the life of the refrigerator, that nobody will ever see it. And so you can replace appliances very cost effectively, just like everything that surrounds the appliances.
Yeah, just kind of like you can reglaze a tub. You don't have to replace the whole tub. Shower situation in a bathroom. You can just reglaze the tub and, put up some new mirrors and lights and medicine cabinets and a few counters. That's not that expensive.
No, no.
Yeah.
And so I know some of the other big things that really pay dividends, really pay back. Fresh paint.
Yeah.
Fresh paint is one of the biggest things, that just kind of makes a home feel new. Even in a very old home, makes the home feel clean, makes it feel new, makes it feel refreshed. So if you go with a more of a neutral tone, kind of the grays, the beiges, the off whites, those just make makes the room feel a lot bigger, a lot brighter, a lot more open
And cleaner.
and cleaner. 100%.
Right. Because if you can get the homeowner to, if you're talking to the homeowner before they do any of this, you can get them to take all of their artwork and pictures off of the walls, patch all those holes, paint those walls a nice neutral color, like you say. And, it smells fresh. It looks fresh. It gives you, the feel of your, almost a new home construction when you walk in. And, the same thing with flooring and fixtures. It's the same thing. That carpet, that you've had down there for too long and has been washed too many times, get it up, replace it with, what is that flooring called?
LVP.
Yes.
Yeah. LVP, luxury vinyl plank. It's one of the least expensive ways to get rid of that carpet.
Yep.
Because I don't care how well that dust devil is, or that carpet cleaner is not coming up. That dog stain is not going to come up. It hasn't come up 5 years ago. It's not going to come up today.
Right.
So go ahead and plan for certain things. You can even work into the budget, but you can go ahead and plan for things that are definitely going to come back.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest things is that people want to come in and feel like, okay, I want to make my own new stains. I don't want your dog stains. I have a dog. They're going to make their own stains. I don't need yours. So I think the act of coming in and feeling new and feeling fresh for at least the amount possible is a big changer in making people move forward, making multiple offers coming, home offers that are, at price or list price or higher.
Right.
List price or higher. So,
and another thing too, when you live in a home, you're not cognizant of the smells of that home. So for argument's sake, you have too many cats and you don't even smell those cats anymore. Somebody else who doesn't have cats walks in and they're immediately turned off. Or you are, you're of the ethnic variety that cooks with a lot of curry, and that stuff gets in the walls. And though I love that food, you open the door and you immediately smell it. All of that stuff is turn off to people who want to buy a house. Those are things you can't see, but you can, your other senses catch it, I guess is what I'm saying.
See, and things like odors that are not, doesn't smell like, the forest.
Mhm.
Okay. If it smells like, what you cook with every day, or if there's animal odors, or, anything that is unusual and not neutral, buyers notice that, and some buyers will go, "Oh God, these people, I love this food,"
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
and they look around the house and they don't mind it smells, but that's 1 out of 50,
Yeah.
as opposed to if the house smells bad, what does that say for how they're taking care of the house?
Yeah. The rest of the stuff.
Right. In the back of their mind, they're thinking, these people are not haven't taken very good care of this house. This worries me. Smells bad. Who knows what's broken, and that's it. They're off the house, and they're not going to buy your home.
And I'm talking how many issues, things that sellers a lot of times don't recognize. Things like window units, AC, air conditioning window units.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's not wrong. So there are people, a lot of times have happened, there's 4 or 5 bedroom homes, they're big homes, there may be empty nesters, all the kids have moved out, and they really only heat and cool one room. They don't want to heat the entire house. So they have a window unit. I'm saying $900,000 homes sometimes. But for the buyer coming in, their first thought is, oh, there's something wrong with the AC unit.
Yeah.
No matter how many times you tell them, you could tell them before they came to the house. You could have a big poster on the front door saying, we use this only for our room. We don't want to heat and cool the entire house. They think there's something wrong. And now you're having a conversation about a $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 HVAC and furnace.
That's right.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. See, and all of those, if a buyer says, you know what, this house could probably be a good house. I could clean it all up. But in their mind, it's a junk box, even though it's not. And so what you get are lowball offers. And now the seller's insulted because they're only going to offer and they don't want to negotiate. And you don't have the negotiating leverage because you made the house appear to the buyer to not be perfect. And the buyer is just telling you, this house is imperfect. I'm going to have to come in. I'm going to have to do all this work and get the smell out and paint the walls. Those chartreuse walls in the dining room with stripes. I'm going to have to paint them all HGTV gray. It's going to cost me thousands of dollars. Heck, I'm not going to buy the house for full price and then pay thousands. And the seller now has to suffer the consequences. So you got to look at, value in return. It's like, you redo a kitchen. You can expect that built into the eventual price, you're probably going to recover 85% of the cost, which is a pretty darn good recovery, considering that the house is going to sell for full market value. And when buyers and the real estate professionals that are taking them around looking at your home are making a judgment, they look at your home versus a home that is very similar to your home just down the street. Your house has a really nicely updated, intelligently expensed, updated home, updated kitchen. And the folks down the road, the kitchen is in perfect shape and everything works, but it's what they bought in 1998. So do you want to pay $485,000 for this house with an updated kitchen and an updated bathroom, or $470,000 for the house down the road, in which you're going to have to put in $40,000 or $50,000 to update? Who wins, Josh?
The buyer always wins. If you don't do the right thing, the buyer always wins. And so it pops into my brain, market value versus appraisal value. And one thing about appraisals, and you can read the news and everything else, they do have a certain amount of subjectivity to it. They have, they have their own opinions too. So even if the house looks amazing, the picture looks amazing, if they walk in and smell the cat pee, that's going to affect their appraisal. Whether it's consciously or subconsciously, whether they write a note into the appraisal report or not, it subconsciously will. The flower bed being nice and well taken care of and managed is going to reflect in the appraisal. So market value is really what someone's willing to pay for, and appraisal value is what the lender is actually going to lend you. If they're What are they saying the home is actually worth?
That's
And
right.
very few people like to pay above what the home is worth. I've met very few of those people. They do exist, but I don't talk to them very much.
Yeah. And then Steph, what does it look like? People walk into a room and it's poorly lit.
Oh, it's terrible. It's, it's terrible, and that's not expensive to do new lighting and some ceiling fans, or, make sure that you have LED lights in there. That stuff doesn't cost a lot of money. They also have these big warehouses all over town, the salvage warehouses, where you can go and get this stuff even cheaper than you would at like Home Depot or Lowe's. So, lighting is so important. And the other thing that's important, I think, especially to folks in Atlanta and a lot of the younger buyers, is energy efficiency and smart homes. Like, forget about it. I can't figure out my son's thermostat, but he loves it. He's a young guy and he loves it. So that is so important to the people that are out there buying energy efficiency and smart home items.
And a lot of those, depending on what power company you're with, and sometimes the gas company, a lot of those are heavily rebated.
Yes.
So, like, I have smart thermostats in my house. I have one upstairs and one downstairs. And I got $550 thermostats for about $37. It took 2 months for them to show up.
Right.
But it's worth it. So there's a lot of different options that really just makes the home feel like someone cared, that you're bringing it to 2020, 2025.
Right. And buyers are all going to be looking at things like, they're going to look at the windows. If you have the original windows in a 1980 house, they're single pane, they're wood, they leak, everything goes out of them. The heat goes out, the air goes out. They're terrible. It's not a cheap fix, no, but it could kill a sale if you don't do it beforehand, because buyers look at that. They're like, oh my God, these are the original windows.
Or at least reflect on it. Either reflect on it, recognizing that these will have to be addressed, or managing the problems up front, handling it. If you know that window's leaked for 30 years, today is not suddenly the day to be surprised when the buyer brings up that your window leaks. That today is not the day to suddenly be surprised. Handle those things, solve those situations before it becomes an issue. Because again, a $15 trip to Home Depot versus we want $20,000 paella windows. That's a whole different conversation.
And windows, you talk about that. Paella window. You talk about those windows. You're really, if you decide you're going to do windows, which, I think it pretty much will recoup itself, you better shop around, because you are absolutely correct. You could pay, a vast difference between, you get Paella windows, or you go to some of these other guys and they're windows and they're good, and you pay half the price. Definitely. So we've heard horror stories of people paying way too much money to get the fancy name windows that you don't need. You just don't need. And that's another thing. HGTV is going to have, they're, top of the line Paella windows. Well, that's nice, but you don't need that.
Right. And I'm not, there are certain prices. It really goes down to, again, what is selling around you, what homes are around you, what is it worth to actually do these repairs and renovations. Because if you're buying a $300,000, $400,000 home, most people just care about having new windows. They don't care that's a Pella window.
Right.
They want a double hung vinyl window that they don't have to worry about leaking.
Correct.
Double pane, hopefully UV, limiting. So to get the most expensive windows, you're not going to get that money back. But there are certain times, there's certain locations, certain buyers, when you're working with you're a seller, you're working with a buyer or set of buyers that expect the higher, more expensive window. So you really just have to know and really hone in on what do you need, really have a really good market analysis to decide, is it worth getting that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you have to keep in mind that when you're doing this stuff, you're not doing it because you're going to live there for the next 40 years. You're doing it so that you can get the most out of the house, and it will appeal to the widest variety of the population. And that's very important. And that's where a realtor can help you with that stuff. You know,
planning, right?
Right.
If you go ahead and you do everything all at once, by the time you get it done, you're exhausted.
Yep.
You're watching the money walk out the door. You're building yourself up for disappointment if the world doesn't want to pay you what you think the house is worth. So if you know, and if you're in a situation where all of a sudden you have to move.
Yeah.
I've got a job in North Dakota. I've got to be there in 2 weeks. I've got to sell the house. Well, the house is going to sell as is. Goodbye.
Right.
But if you have a plan for living in the home, and you know that, let's say you've got a really nifty big old house, raised your kids in it, and now you've got a 3,500 or 3,800 square foot home, and it's just the two of you, and the kids are living elsewhere, and occasionally if you have grandchildren, they'll come and sleep over. But basically you're rattling around in a 4 or 5 bedroom, 3 or 4 bath house with a garage and a basement and a half an acre of land. And at some point, even though you may love the neighborhood and the people and you've been in this house for years, you know the house is going to have to go. Plan the work and do it over a period of time. Much of the work will sustain for years. If you do a redo of the kitchen and you live in the house for the next 2 years and you just don't make a mess of the kitchen, you just keep the kitchen clean and neat, the kitchen is going to look as brand new 2 years from now as it does the day that you have it redone. And it's the same thing if you're going to do work like replacing siding or replacing windows. You don't have to replace 35 windows all at once, although the window companies would love for you to do that. You can replace them. You say, like in my house, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 windows in the front of the house. And there's another 25 windows in the rest of the house. Well, if I replace 9 windows with good, serviceable, double pane, aluminum frame, or vinyl frame windows, whichever are the least expensive, they're still going to come with a 10 or a 15-year guarantee for service. They're going to look fine. And instead of me paying $30,000 all at once, I can do this for $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000. And then in 6 months or so, I can replace the windows in the back. And then I can replace the windows on the second level. And then I can place the windows on the ground floor. And it might take 2 years to replace the windows, but windows last for years. And the windows you put in last month are going to look exactly the same as the windows you put in 2 years ago. And you spread the cost out so that you get the best use of your money. And you have a chance to be able to just live with and use what you've got, which means that over time, as your house appreciates in value, the value of your home is going to catch up with the expense that you put into getting the house ready to sell. So planning is a good thing, and it doesn't have to be done all at once. And it doesn't have to be done with a major loan that scares the daylights out of you, that if you don't sell the house now and get your money back, oh my gosh. So planning is really, really important. And Josh, you talked about earlier our certified pre-owned home program. Let's go back to that for just a minute, because everything that you see windows, siding, paint, new roof. All of those are the things that people see. But then there's the elements. It's like, we walk around and we're human beings and we all have skin and everything's covered. But inside there's lungs and there's heart and there's liver and all of that. And they all have to work pretty well or we're in trouble. Talk about the certified pre-owned home program, the inspections, the process to make the lungs, the heart, and the liver as sturdy as the rest of the home. Which is important.
The way our certified pre-owned program really works is we look at trying to prevent as many issues up front. The issues just from the, I think 3 or 4 decades at this point, of all the transactions we've done. And we look for the issues that have caused the most amount of transactions to become issues. We look at inspections. We look at, title issues. We look at even things after the closing. So one of the things we found out and we just realized and we just acted on is getting a pre-inspection, getting the inspection before you're ready to sell your home, before really when you're ready to sell your home, you can find out all the issues before the buyer shows up, before anyone else is really coming after your property. So if there's any issues, if there's any problems, again, at that point, you can shop around. You're not being rushed to find the contractor that can do it within a week because you're going to close a week later. You can do some of the work yourself, not all of it yourself. You have a really good idea of what needs to be addressed to prevent that issue, whatever that issue is, from causing an issue, but causing a closing, not a closing. So another thing we do is things like the title work. So title work, we do title work up front. We try to make sure that there's no issues that may pop up from the title that can cause, another reason why we can't close. This is a real true story I'm actually dealing with right now. Not my property, but it's a property that I'm looking at buying. And there's 4 people on this particular deeded property. It's a really small property, little deeded property. And of the 5 people, it's right next to my mom's house. The 2 of them have died. From those 2, they both have 4 kids independent of each other, of course. So there's now 8 grandkids or kids. And from that, 3 of the kids have died. And they had about 8 or 9 kids each. So now we're having to deal with 25, trying to figure out somewhere in the neighborhood between 25 and 28 people to sign off on the selling of this little piece of property, this little tiny piece of property. So we look at getting all those issues taken care of up front too. So that's part of our certified pre-owned. But when it comes to the inspections, we want to make sure that everything is as good as possible. Everything is taken care of before someone that actually wants to buy comes in.
Yeah, actually, it doesn't have to be as super complex as that. You just closed a sale just literally yesterday that had a title issue. Yeah.
So I'm working with the buyer, and I wish they had done some title work up front. Situation where they didn't get the proper title done. I think we took another month to close.
That's right.
An additional month to close, just because their seller did not get the title work done correctly up front. It could have been something that could have been solved well before the home was even on the market. And luckily my buyer was in the situation they could wait. They're okay to wait. But a lot of times I tell my buyer, you don't have enough time. Your job is starting X. You're selling your home. It has to be closed by Y. You don't have enough time to hope and pray that the government gets their taxes filed, or not taxes, but the title cleared so it can send it to the attorney for them to clear everything. You don't have enough time to hope and pray the government's going to get it done in time.
And in this particular case, even though the buyer had flexibility, the one area that they didn't have flexibility in was in their loan, which had a rate lock. And it was all set for them to close at a specific interest rate. Well, closing a month later meant that the interest rate was blown. And so the seller had to come up with ways to compensate the buyer to be able to keep the rate lock so they got the really good interest rate that they had negotiated so that they could make their monthly payments. So those delays, yes, the buyer happened to be flexible, but it still cost the seller
Yeah,
because they hadn't done the work that they should have done up front.
very true.
Yep.
Very true.
So let's recap. Okay. Projects that really bring the best returns and the best results start with things like curb appeal, minor and pretty kitchen repairs, bathroom updates, simple paint, clean floors, carpeting, or replace carpeting with a nice, durable, reasonably priced laminate that looks like wood. Do the home inspections, all of those sorts of things that really, really put the home over a period of time in a cost effective way into top selling condition so that when buyers walk in, they just go, oh, this house feels good. And everything goes from there, right? Stephanie, how do you walk around the urge to be Mr. or Mrs. HGTV?
Well, I think that those programs are great for giving people ideas. And then if you take those ideas and modify them and use them so that they are cost effective, I think it's okay. You just can't get carried away with, some of them which are just for TV and they're not going to fit into the budget and they're not going to fit into the plan to sell your house. You have to be careful of that. But you know what? For just getting some ideas, I mean, it's like also, in Atlanta, they have the Atlanta Home Show. That's a great show to go to. Not necessarily to buy anything, but to just get ideas and to use that to then take to your plan and have it fit economically. If that's kind of what I think you should do with HGTV, and just not got wrapped up with, you have to have granite countertops. You have to have the best granite countertops. Oh, it would be great to put a pool in the backyard. All of those things. Don't get sucked into that.
And I think it's really important to, again, speak with someone, speak to an expert, speak to someone who's actually in the field, who sees what sells and what doesn't sell, which is really, really important. What doesn't sell on a daily basis, because there are times when granite countertops are not the best option.
Yes.
There are times when it wouldn't make sense. There are certain areas where, there's no point to do X, Y, and Z because you'll never get that money back.
Absolutely.
And then even if someone's willing to pay the market value, if someone's still willing to pay the market value, if they're going to get a loan like 99% of people out there, they can't afford it from the appraisal point of value. It won't appraise.
It won't appraise. Correct. Yeah.
So, it's worth really looking and really honing in on what is the best options to build the value of your home for where your home is. Because again, like we were saying about the split level earlier, it doesn't really matter, if you finish that basement if you've used half that you've already taken the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And then excluded, 90% of the people that are going to buy in this area they're known for schools, so
exactly.
It's real work and strategy.
So planning, budgeting, understanding what is expected when somebody wants to buy a home in your community, and seeking out early on, as Josh said, an expert who knows and understands marketability and the value of homes to help you to know what you need to do and spend money on, and what, frankly, you don't need to do and spend money on. Well, we live in a community that, the kids would have to drive to a pool because there's no pool in our neighborhood. I'll just put a pool in the backyard.
Nope.
And then 6 years later, when you're trying to sell the house and 50% of your buyers with families with young kids don't want to even look at your house because they're afraid the kids are going to fall in the pool and drown. And you have the cost of keeping the pool up, and you have all of the expenses that come with that. Is a pool a really good idea? Or is it ultimately, once you've sold the house, pick a community that has a pool in it and send the kids to the pool and enjoy your backyard and sit out on your beach chair and on your nice green lawn and read a book and say, this is great. Kids are swimming and I'm resting. So it's planning, and that's super important. But you also have to plan for having a good time, because it can't be all work. And Stephanie is the queen of the good times. So we can't.
Times roll. Right.
I'm exhausted from putting those windows in. I've got to go someplace to enjoy myself.
Yeah, well, this weekend, we're going to go to Savannah. We're going to go to the ocean. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to go to a jazz festival. We're going to check out the city. If you haven't been there, absolutely do it now. Do it now. The weather's beautiful there now. And it's a great, fun city to do lots of things. Or if you love to be scared and you love Halloween, go to Fright Fest at Six Flags Over Georgia. It's been around forever and ever and ever, and you will enjoy it. Or you can go to the North Georgia State Fair in Marietta. That's always a blast. Rides, concerts, petting barn, monster trucks, you name it. Go there and have a good old time. You'll be exhausted. I remember going with our grandchildren one year, and just walking from one end to the other was totally exhausting. It's huge, but check it out. Shady Knees at Piedmont Park. If you want Shaky Knees at Piedmont Park for a great music festival this weekend. And again, last but not least, check out Helen. It's still going on. It'll be going on, all through October, Oktoberfest up in Helen. So there's lots of stuff to do. September month, freebie for the kids in the city. Take advantage of it with fall break. Take your kids someplace in the city that's offering this program, and there's lots of them. So that's what I got.
And it's a lot. And
it is a lot.
And it's fun. And it just has me, like I say, every week. Gosh, living in Atlanta and North Georgia is just so boring. There's nothing to do. LOL, as the kids say. Yep. So we want to thank you very much for joining us again this week on ATL Home and Market. These kinds of discussions, I think, the kinds of practical, get it done kind of discussions that really help you, not necessarily having to run and jump and take an action right this minute, but to think and to plan about the best way for you to be able to buy or sell a home. And if you want more information, and we've got some really good information and facts about home renovations and how they will repay you, all you need to do is just click on the links that are with this in our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to get some very good information, or call us or text us, and we'll be happy to provide you with both the information, and also if you just want to have a little coaching session to talk about, I'm thinking about selling my house in a year or two. What do I need to do? That's something that we will absolutely do for you. So if you like what you've heard today, click on like. Let everybody know that you thought this was a good, informational, and fun hour of your time. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, because on a weekly basis and on a regular basis, we're always adding great information about what to do and how to enjoy yourself in Metro Atlanta, and how to go ahead and get the best information and take the best steps possible in being able to buy and sell a home. So like us, subscribe to us, and come back again next week. On behalf of Stephanie and Josh, I want to thank you for joining us. And I wish you a great weekend and week. Go do some of those cool things that Stephanie's told you about. We'll see you again next week.
Take care. Have a good week.
Have a good one.
Bye.